Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Community and Children's Services Committee. My name is Kate Doidge and I'm the clerk to this committee. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that the recording of the public section of this meeting shall be uploaded to the City Corporation's website for up to 1 civic year. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Kate. Now, again, before we start the main business of the meeting, a couple of other points to make. First of all, this is Liam Gillespie's last meeting with us. Liam leaves at the end of this month. Where are you, Liam? I'm not sure how many years you've been with us, but it's quite a while now, I think. So I think the committee will really want to say thank you very much for all of your hard work and contribution to the committee. And we wish you every best for your future. And secondly, I'd like to introduce Helen Chantry. Helen, who is joining us as an interim replacing Liam. So it's her first meeting. So I think I'm quite sure there's going to be a very detailed handover between the two, but it's a farewell to Liam and a thank you and a hello and welcome to Helen. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. So we now turn to item 1, which is apologies. So apologies have been received from Joanna Obey, the Deputy Chair Steve Goodman, Deputy Christopher Hayward, Alderman Tin Levine, Sophia Mooney, Deputy James Thompson, Sandra Jenner, and Munsa Ali. Turning to item 2, which is members' declarations, none I have been notified in advance. So do any members in the room have any declarations in respect to items on the agenda, please? Seeing none, we now turn to agenda item 3, and these are to agree the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 19th of June 2025. I've been notified that Beverly Ryan would like to put some suggestions as to some corrections to the accuracy of the minutes.
Okay, Beverly, just before you do, can we just do page by page and then come in at the right time? Because there, I think there is also a correction on page 8, because John, last time I knew John Fletcher, where are you, John? You didn't live on Golden Lane Estate, you live in Mansfield Street, so we'll correct that as well. And then I think we move, Beverly, to the items that you're interested in, which are page 9.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Judith as Director and for agreeing to that you support the amendments that I'm proposing. So as Chair of Governors of the Aldgate School, I read this item with interest and listened to it alongside the recording. So I've just got three minor suggestions. So the first one is on paragraph 3, where it says during the discussion, members raised concerns about the accuracy of the data provided by the head teacher. Having listened back, it was during the discussion it was necessary for figures cited by a member to be corrected, and these were certified as accurate by the director. That's the amendment I would like. And the second one is on paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The recommendations were carried, and it talked about the Aldgate School to secure its future. It was actually talking about working collaboratively with the Aldgate School with the aim of providing a sustainable funding model for childcare going forward. This is a second amendment. And finally, on the resolutions, resolution C approved that the £174,000, it's actually up to £174,000. If there's an underspend, that stays with the committee's budget. So those are 3 amendments I would like to make.
Thank you very much, Beverly. And members of the committee content to accept the amendments? Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, anything further on corrections on page 11 and 12? 13, 14, 15, and the rest. No other corrections? No, fine, thank you very much. And we can approve the minutes with your agreement. Thank you. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. So we now turn to item 4, which is the public outstanding items. These are included in the information pack on pages 3 to 4, but the Chair would like to discuss these as part of the main agenda.
Thank you. I think in the past, what we've asked for are the outstanding actions to become part of the main public agenda, because I think it's really important that we have the opportunity just to keep checking progress and make sure that we're content with all that's happening. So I think we've just had an issue of change of clerk that got lost in the in the handover. So just to look at the first page, I think the items are all due either later this year or next year. But if we look to item 4, Gordon Lane Management Centre, we were due a report this September. But as I've said, I think officers have been really drawn into the inspections. But Simon is going to give us a verbal update.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, we brought a report to the last committee where we talked about the approach to commissioning the provider operator of the new centre when it's refurbished and reopened. So we will go out for an open market tender, but that will allow opportunity, as we discussed at that committee meeting, for internal parties and others who might be interested in bidding for the operation. We're working with some specialists to refine the specification at the moment, and we would anticipate publishing an invitation to tender for that provision in Q2 in 2026. That will align us with some of the progress we'll be making around the refurbishment of the centre. We've signed a pre-construction services agreement on the refurbishment work. That means we have now a fully appointed design team. We'll be coming to this committee for decision around specific design options, which will then enable the fully costed option to be developed and designed. And then there'll be a further decision gateway for us in order to enter into the contract to deliver the works. This will now happen at some pace, having gone through the hurdles of actually securing the framework provider Alliance Leisure. So we would hope in the winter, December or January, to come with an options report, and then shortly after that, looking for a decision report. The element that may be a barrier to progress to there is we've commissioned a new comms and engagement consultant who is engaging with residents in Golden Lane about the major works programme there. That contract's just been signed. We want them to lead the engagement around the leisure centre refurbishment so that there's a sort of coordination and coherence about that approach. But we are conscious that they haven't fully mobilised and began their contract to deliver yet, and yet we are ready now to start engaging on those design options. So we're trying to hasten that. We might offer them a specific contract to start early on that work.
Thank you very much, Simon. Any questions or comments? No. Okay. Oh, sorry, Kerry, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, do you mind if I don't stand? Thank you. Can I just ask, what's happening with Fusion's contract? Because it got extended. Is that being extended again? Or I can't remember if it's till next year or the following, sorry.
I'll confirm the date. I'll have it for the minute about the current contract. We did extend it with Fusion because essentially, whilst we want to retain a service at the centre, we're reliant on Fusion to operate it. We would like then any closure to coincide with the commencement of works on the refurbishment. And then when the centre reopens, it will reopen with whichever operator is successful in the tender process. But until that point of commencing works, we are reliant on Fusion as our provider.
Thank you, Simon. Layla.
Sorry. Sorry, could you please remind us how much we're spending on this contract? And is it just for engagement or is it to consult on the design? Thank you.
Sorry, Layla, just to be clear, you're talking about the comms contract, not the comms contract. Thanks.
I don't know the value of the comms contract because it's an overall piece of work for the whole of the housing division on their engagement. I'm sure we can find the value of that. The work that we are funding for the refurbishment of the gym has a budget envelope of £10.4 million. And from that, where we have specific engagement needs that we have to fund, will be funded from that budget.
Thanks. I think that's a really important question, though, because I know there's been a lot of interest in communications on our housing work. So perhaps I could ask Peter to provide that number so it can be included in the minutes, if that's okay. People. Thanks.
Thank Thank you, Chair. So we now turn to item 5, which is the Resident Involvement Strategy 2025 to 29, and this is the decision item starting on page 19 of the main agenda pack.
So, Liam, I think this is for you to present and take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to introduce our draft resident involvement strategy for housing services for 2025 to 29 for your approval today. This strategy sets out a new approach to involving residents in shaping and scrutinising housing services, and as members are all aware, that's never been more important. It was developed through extensive consultation with residents, and it directly reflects what they've told us their priorities are, particularly around transparency, communication, and the need for more meaningful involvement. So seeing results from their contributions. The strategy has 5 key objectives, and it will be supported by a detailed action plan. A key part of the new strategy is the implementation of the new resident voice group, which will play a central role in holding the housing service to account. And the strategy, as I pointed out in the report, aligns with the corporate plan's objectives and also the requirements and expectations of the regulator of social housing. So we're asking members to approve the strategy today so we can move forward with implementation. And I'm happy, of course, to take any questions. I should add also that my colleague Sam Bedford, the Resident Involvement Manager, is also present and can answer questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think this is a really important piece of work, and not least for the lead members for our local authorities where we have other housing estates. It becomes a bit of the backdrop to all of that estate related work. So any questions or comments? Sarah and then Kerry.
Chair, are we supposed to stand? Am I meant to be?
I'm comfortable about whether people stand or sit, but I do know it's a grant committee and people prefer to stand sometimes in the grant committee. You.
I will stay seated unless anyone objects. I had 2 questions, one really about the long term and one about the short term. I mean, I really welcome this. This looks like a really important piece of work, and particularly the piece about establishing some ongoing resident governance around housing. All of that sounds absolutely in the right direction. My experience of resident voice work in my day job tells me that a really important part of this is not simply engaging residents in decision making and the nature of our conversations as they already happen. It's actually about learning some new ways of engaging with residents, of structuring meetings, of exploring issues with people. And so I just wanted to check that alongside all of the excellent structural change that you're talking about here, you're also thinking hard about practice and how our team in the council are actually going to need to unlearn some ways of working and relearn some new ones, which I think is absolutely critical to bringing this to life in its fullest possible way. So that was just my first point. And the second is purely a short-term one, which is in the long term, this feels absolutely right. And I just wanted to re-emphasize something that I know we've talked about lots with Judith and Peter recently, which is as important is our short-term responsiveness to tenants around repairs and maintenance now in order to build the trust that we will need to have the long-term relationship that we want. So I just wanted to check that the short-term and the long-term were really being looked at alongside each other. Thank you.
Kerry, and then we'll come to Liam to respond.
Thank you. I'm just intrigued to see how many residents have contacted you in terms of trying to be involved in the resident voice groups. I know you sent a final reminder out today. Is there a sort of an estimated number you're trying to get off each estate, or I'm just intrigued to know a bit more detail if that's all right. Thank you.
Liam, I don't see any of the hands. Do you want to respond?
Yes, thank you. In relation to the first point, we do accept that there needs to be something of a culture change. It's the right thing to do, but it's also expected by the regulator and residents that we'll do things differently. So the remark about having to unlearn certain habits is a very apt one. One of the objectives of the strategy talks about culture. So there will be some extensive work, and obviously some of it will take quite a while. But by setting up certain mechanisms like resident voice, we want to sort of kickstart that process. In terms of the interest in resident voice, we've had 10 applications so far. We didn't have a specific quota per estate, but I am pleased to say that we've had a very good mix of tenure types and also locations. So we've had people from outer city estates, sheltered housing, general needs housing, leaseholders. So a really good response, very good quality submissions as well, which we'll be reviewing shortly. And not that I want to get ahead of myself, but I think it's looking fairly promising. Thank you.
Thanks, Liam. Have you had much response from particularly the older residents, the over 80s, who might not have access to the internet, who sometimes as a group don't feel very included?
We haven't, as part of the application process, we haven't specifically asked people to tell us their age at this point. I think we're aware that getting that group that maybe not digitally connected in the same way involved in our engagement work is a key issue for us. I think it's might be slightly challenging with this particular group if people aren't able to access the internet and things like that because of the formality of the need to read documents and so on and so forth. But if people are interested, they sheltered units and all the rest have had all the same promotional material through doors and everything as everyone else. But at this stage, we're not asking for ages, but we will make accommodation for people that want to get involved that maybe don't have access to the internet. I think there's a general point as well that as part of this, we want to work on different ways that we engage with people so that people that aren't online or at the other end of the spectrum, people that want to connect with us online rather than come face to face through time or other responsibilities can do as well. So we're hoping to have a full range of ways that people can engage with us and meet the different needs that our residents have.
Thank you. David.
Can I just ask, really following on from something I answered at court the other day, but obviously in our ward, a number of residents are probably not the people targeted by this piece of work, but this appears to be a resident involvement strategy. It's limited, I think, in its scope to being just tenants and leaseholders. Is there a way that either in this piece of work or others, we can include a forum or voice for those who are not in that accommodation but are residents in the city? So in other words, is this intended to be a franchise of only tenants and leaseholders? And if so, can we make that clearer? Because if this is the tenants and leaseholders resident involvement strategy, I think it might be better to call it that rather than other people feeling left out of something that's not for them. And then we do have challenges of communicating with those other residents equal to, certainly different perhaps to this, and that's then separate work we need to think about doing.
Thank you, David. Yes, Peter and I had that conversation that we need to badge this more clearly as a social, something for our social housing tenants and leaseholders, not a citywide resident engagement strategy. Nonetheless, we're picking that up with Jackie Webster and colleagues as she being the lead member. So we'll have those. I will have those conversations about whether there's anything additional that colleagues want to put on. Thank you. Thanks, David. I think the front sheet does say it's housing service, but if it's helpful, we could add social housing service into that, and then we'll come back when colleagues have had the opportunity to look at it more broadly with across the city. Niga.
Thank you, Chair. Just would like to get to clarification point for the strategy, which I very welcome the paper, and I thought it was a very well written one as well. Page 37 talks about development of key performance indicators. Would this committee be able to have sight of those, or is there an idea that we'll be able to be involved in those? Just wanted a clarification. Thank you.
Liam.
Thank you. Yes. The key performance indicators currently for resident involvement are very limited, and they mostly relate to activity within our community centres. But as part of this new strategy, we'd like to be able to demonstrate the outcomes and the impact of all the work we'll be doing and are doing at the moment. So we'll be developing quite a detailed suite of those. Obviously, suggestions are welcome, and the KPIs and other information will be reported routinely to Housing Subcommittee and here as required.
Can I just follow on? So would you also include like a kind of a risk matrix or something about those performance indicators if they're lagging behind, and what would we be doing to mitigate them, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes, certainly. So currently the housing performance dashboard has that facility, and we can conduct exception reporting with explanations, and that goes to obviously senior management team and to the relevant committee as well, and currently the Housing Improvement Board.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No. Okay, then members were asked to make a decision on this report. We're content to approve. Thank you very much. Town Clerk.
Thank you, committee. So we now turn to item 6, which is Baltic Street West development proposal, and this is a decision item starting on page 41 of the main agenda pack.
Thanks very much. Now, I know a lot of members around the table will be very familiar with this item. It's been around for quite some time. I think my memory, I thought we had already made a decision on this, but rather than ask Mike to present it, because I think you're all familiar with it, if we could just take any final questions and then approve it. Okay, approved. Thank you very much. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. So we now turn to item 7, which is the Housing Services Asset Management Strategy. Again, this is for decision starting on page 43.
Peter, you're talking to this one?
Yes.
Thank you.
So what lays before you is the the asset management strategy, which pulls together our plans and the way we intend to husband our housing assets. It's quite comprehensive, gives you an idea of the stock profile, and also what we want to flag at this stage is that we are currently carrying out a 100% stock condition survey, obviously subject to be gaining access into all of those homes. Though last time we carried out such a survey, we got 80% access, which is very robust. And once we receive that information towards the end of this financial year, we will update the strategy with more data on what we find as a result of carrying out the stock condition survey, which is underway at the moment. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Anne?
Thank you very much, Peter. I note that there's a risk that there might be a reprioritization of planned works. So have you any sense of the level of that risk? How likely that is to happen?
Because a lot of the work we're doing at the moment is focused on health and safety and external envelope, I think it's very unlikely that risk is a high risk, but it seemed prudent to say that it is a risk.
Just to come in, if we, for example, we saw damp and mold, we would make that an absolute priority. So that it's that level of engagement. We don't expect to destabilise any existing major programmes.
And I've just got one other question. Who pulls all this together? Which officer does this? Is this you, Peter, or are you employing consultants to do
this? This work is being done internally. The stock condition survey is being done externally as part of the major works reorganisation, which committee went through previously. We will have an asset management function within the department. Okay. So at the moment, it's being fielded by members of my team.
Thank you.
Leila.
I note that the report also says that there's an ambition for 700 new homes by 2026. semicolon, 344 homes for social rent completed in 2015, 267 homes in 3 live projects, and a further 500 by 2037. Could you tell us whether these 700 new homes are all going to be outside the City of London? And also whether these 700 new homes include the 344 that have already been completed? I note that elsewhere the report says that the City of London is under pressure from the Mayor of London to contribute to the building of extra housing. Thank you.
Most of the homes will be that we're looking at the moment will be outside the city on existing estates, because that's where it's usually most straightforward, because we already own the land, so we don't have to take into account that cost. The 700 includes homes which are currently underway, and we have a number that should be being handed over next year. And we've also got plans and been through committee recently for an extra some extra homes in Southwark at a few estates, at a couple of estates that we have in Southwark. And we are also working on proposals for the extra 500 homes, which are as described in there. So I think that's I think your question suggests that we need to make that clearer.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sarah.
Really welcome the strategy and the sort of rigor of the self-assessment and the balance between the short-term and the long-term compliance and where do we need to get to. That all felt excellent. It raised 2 questions for me, which I think Anne may have touched on a little already. The first was, are you resourced to do all of this? Because, I mean, accepting that this is for a refresh in 2026, this sounds ambitious for a year's work. So I just wanted to test that we're resourced to really pull this off. And the second is, how will we be judging if we've succeeded? And is that something that you will bring to the Housing Committee? Thanks.
We will definitely need to report progress to the Housing Committee. As you know, we've been rolling out key performance indicators across all our activity for the past year or so. And I've always been very clear that that was work in progress. So as Liam demonstrated about the engagement strategy, bringing in and updating performance indicators for that, we would have those for this as well, and we would be reporting mainly to the housing subcommittee and to this committee as requested. As regards resourcing, a lot of the works contained within the asset management strategy about works to our existing homes. A lot of that work is already being heralded in the 10-year programme that we discussed elsewhere, which we are moving through quite positively, but in terms of securing the funding for that. And the people resources, some of that will come when we need it, and some of that is on hand now because of the preparatory work that we're doing for some of the projects that we have outlined funding for. So it's a mixed bag. We have an idea of what we will need when at various points, and at the moment we've got the resources we need to do the initial work, but we will need to have to staff up as we go.
David?
Can I just drill into that a little bit, because I'm really concerned about the maintenance spend plan, because if we've learned anything from the position we feel we've just reached, it's that we've failed to spend enough on maintenance. And is this figure based on what we've previously been spending on maintenance? And is 4.3 million divided by across the 12 estates really enough even to meet those basic needs before the long-term investment that we are equally working hard to bring forward as quickly as possible?
Actually, for an organisation of our size, that spend is too high, and that's an indication of our history of not investing and not having planned maintenance programmes in place. We are in the process of shifting that so that the ideal is to have more spend in a planned way and less responsibly, because it's not just about the money, it's about disruption. So with the 10 years major works programme that we are taking through various committees to get approvals for, we should see this drop because we should need to spend less money responsibly and more on the major works and in planned programmes, which are being established at the moment by the repairs team, so that we repair and maintain the kit we have in buildings, services, etc., on a more regular basis. At the moment, too much of the work we do is responsive. So that 4.3 million is too high for us, but that's not going to go down until the pendulum has swung.
And so is that an increase that's been decided upon recently? So this is a kind of represents a new figure.
That's an indication of our spend at the moment, gives you an idea of our spend at the moment on responsive repairs.
So at the moment we're spending 4.3 million on responsive repairs.
Yes.
Okay, and so is there not the possibility that whilst that need is going to likely remain the same as we put in maintenance planning, will there not be a need for more money in a very short term while we overlap those two things? So in other words, the state of the stock is such that responsive repairs are pretty high, as you've just set out. Is the idea that we can just shift from responsive repairs into schemes of planned maintenance for the same money?
Sorry, Philip, is your question on the same? Yeah, go ahead and then Peter respond.
So I just wanted to understand, we had a figure for across the corporation of maintenance, I think it was 138 million approximately, which didn't cover everything within the corporation's responsibility. Is that figure included in the figure that the finance committee was working to, or is that outside of that number? Because I'd possibly follow on with your next question, because I think it's all relevant. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I think I'll have to find out from colleagues if we were included in that.
I'll try and help, Philip, because I haven't seen the finance paper that says that, but my understanding historically, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, is that housing services, HRA, has not been included in it. You know, it's been shown separately to the corporation's overall for its own assets, and that doesn't include. I'm looking. I don't know if Mark's here. Is that correct, Mark?
I'm afraid I haven't seen that paper, so I can't. But you may well be right, but we need to go back and check.
Can we please clarify that in a minute, though? But my understanding is that HRA is separate from corporate numbers. David, did you get the answer that you needed, or is there something more? And then Nigat, yeah.
Can I just ask that at a future meeting, at a point that's convenient but not too far away, we get a bit more information, please, about what the planned maintenance arrangements are, particularly if a scheme is being built of planned maintenance rather than responsive maintenance. I think because of where we've reached and the pressure on everybody from those eyes outside the corporation, so disappointed in the position that we've reached, it would be really useful for us to know what the plans are for that maintenance project, because I'm afraid the criticism is levied at us that there's not been enough scrutiny historically. And I think in order to bring that to bear for everybody, we need to know what those maintenance plans are, please, as soon as is possible. Thank you.
Agreed, we'll do that. Nigat.
Chair, can I just get clarification? Have we got a target from the Mayor of London about how many social housing units we should be providing in the city? Just a clarification point, please. Thank you.
Not a target as such, but we've been working with them for some time to identify projects which we think could contribute to it. And we've come to this committee before with various proposals.
I think the other important point, sorry, Mark, I'll just add to Peter. I think the other important point, Nigat, is that, as Peter said, there have been conversations with GLA for some time. And there's a bit of a chicken and egg relationship on this, because we need to take plans to the point of planning so that GLA can see that we're ready to go before they will agree to the grant funding. So, but then if you look at it from a projects procurement perspective, they're saying, why are you investing the time and doing that when we haven't got a guarantee of the money? But it is a condition of the GLA that we have to get to a certain point before they'll really seriously consider us.
Thank you, Chair. My question really picks up on that. Page 60 of our briefing pack, the final page of the document before us. On the new homes, it refers to those being funded by those that we're actually developing at the moment, a mix of funding sources, GLA grants, capital receipts, and Section 106 receipts. I've been around the corporation for about 12 years, but I still haven't quite totally got my head around the latitude we have on Section 106 and how we negotiate with commercial developers to balance the commercial imperative with the social one that we have in this committee. Is it possible for us to have a kind of a sketch now and then maybe a deeper delve at a subsequent meeting?
Can I suggest, because I think this is really quite a complex issue, a bit like understanding HRA, I would suggest that we ask our colleagues responsible for 106 to offer a member briefing on this, because I find it quite tricky as well. And if we ask what the pipeline on 106 might look like, the answer is usually, well, it depends on what we can successfully negotiate. So again, there's a bit of a chicken and egg, but I think it would be helpful for members to understand 106 process and understand how much CCS stroke housing can expect to come from 106, because it helps us plan the number of new homes we can put up in the future.
Yes, Chair, I totally support that. Maybe at the next meeting.
Well, whether it is a briefing at the meeting or whether it's a separate briefing to allow a substantial amount of time for conversation and questions, because we could take an hour at least on that, which we probably haven't got sufficient time for in committee. So if you're in agreement, I'd say a separate members briefing. Thanks. Leila?
Could I add to that a potential discussion and review of the Article 4 provision, which requires planning permission to convert buildings to residential? Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay, so we are being asked to approve this paper. Content to that. Thank you all very much. 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Chairman. So we now turn to item 8, which is the North East London Rough Sleep Convention and Recovery Grant Delivery Proposal. And this is for decision starting on page 61. Just to draw members' attention that there is a non-public appendix which can be found at agenda item 19, which is to be read in conjunction with this item.
Will, I think you're presenting this for us.
Chairman, yes. So this report seeks approval from this committee for the City of London to act as the lead authority, the commissioning body and administrator for the rough sleeping prevention and recovery grant on behalf of the North East London sub-region. This is set out as option 1 in your report. The grant is provided to individual local authorities and sub-regions to provide vital single homelessness services to support individuals sleeping rough, at risk of rough sleeping or at risk of returning to rough sleeping. The proposal covers an initial period of this financial year. However, members are also asked to consider the possibility of in-year increases to grant funding and approval for an extended period pending confirmation of further grant funding from 2026-27 should this follow. And as Town Clerk's pointed out, members' attention is drawn to the non-public appendix in this matter. The proposal is supported by member authorities in the sub-region, and the proposal is not expected to bring a cost to the corporation. Any additional demand upon our existing services can be mitigated by drawing down on the grant to increase capacity where necessary. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions, members? No, but perhaps I might just draw attention, I think, to table 2 on page 65 when we look at the total numbers of rough sleepers in the Nell sub-region. We've talked in this committee in the past about the increase in numbers. I think you look at the table 2 and 3, it makes it very stark how numbers have increased for us. And the pressures that brings on the team to try and deliver as best they can. It's certainly a growing, I was going to say a growing problem. I'd say it's a growing issue for us to keep trying to address and keep a pace of the resources that we need. Not that we would be ciphering from the NEL money. I didn't mean to imply that at all, but I think it's just important that we understand our city context as well. Sarah?
I just double check on accountability. Does this in any way make us accountable for performance in other boroughs?
Will?
No, the individual boroughs will report back on their performance because some boroughs will be in receipt of funds directly. The governance arrangements that we propose setting up to help monitor the administration of the funds will report back to the government on how the funds are used and any impact derived from the use of those funds. But our role is administrating that as a group rather than the actual individual delivery. That would be the responsibility of the boroughs where the contracts are delivering.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, members, are we happy to agree? Yeah, approved. Thank you very much, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. So we turn to item 9, which is the Families in the City update. This is a discussion item which is included in your information pack from pages 5 to 16. And the Chair would like this to be brought into the main agenda to allow a discussion from members.
Members with good memories will recall that there was an information item in our last meeting, but this is an important backdrop and an important development area for us. So rather than have a discussion paper hidden away again in the information pack, I felt it really important that it comes here for broader comments and discussion. And I think Rachel is here. Rachel, I think it's just a short presentation and specifically to draw our attention to things that are new or different from the paper we had to note last time.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rachel Talmage and I wrote this paper with my colleague Hannah, who's sitting here. This is a piece of work, Families in the City, that brings together two large nationwide projects, one being the Best Start Family Hub and the other being the Family First programme, which is the biggest form of children's social care led piece of work in recent history. We're working this together because it makes sense to, given our structure, etc. And you'll see there's been an immense amount of work so far, and we've appended to the report the 0 to 5 provision and the information to families. So I think the important things to say is this is a project that has the Aldgate School on the programme board, along with our voluntary sector partners, our health partners, police, etc. So doing this together and with, right from the outset. One of the things our families say to us often is we are consulted often and we're tired of that. We listen to that. So what we did was at the beginning of each programme board, we start with children and families' voices and ethics and values so that we're rooted in what matters as we make policy changes. What we've done is collected all of the voices and views from across the last few years, as well as across nations to start with, so that we didn't have to re-ask people the same things and tire people out for people who families work hard and it's busy times. So we've done that and we've tried to, you'll see our Family Design Lab piece of work there, as we're trying to make it savvy around engagement, WhatsApp groups, timely things. If you've got children, you're busy. So we're doing that piece of work, which we're starting to ramp up again this autumn. Because obviously the summer holidays, last time we came, summer holidays is also busy. So we've done that. You'll see that our Best Start Family Hub, which has had phase 1, so it's virtual but also in person. So the space that's the one place is the virtual space, but that doesn't preclude anybody who doesn't use digital information. We've got a physical space on a Monday in the Guildhall, and we've got a physical space with our community partners, the Shore Trust, on a Friday, which is at the Aldgate Centre, so it's in person. And every family that's known to us in children's social care and early help, we make sure that families know about those things and we go with them, because it's also free vegan lunch, which is really nice, and it's for all people of all ages as well. So it includes the extended family. So you see, it's a work in progress. At the moment, we're pleased with how it's gone. We've tried to communicate every which way. You'll see that there will have been posters, there's information in the resident newsletter, there's information online, and all of our partners have also messaged all of our families directly to make sure that nobody's rocking up to places where things are closed, because that's really exhausting if you've made the effort to go somewhere. We've maintained a broad spectrum of offers for the under 5s, which you'll see, but the hub actually is to 25 if it's children with SEND. But we're trying to do this collaboratively and together. and there's lots I could talk about, but I shan't because your time is busy. We're expecting more information from the DfE in the autumn. We met with them last week. They couldn't tell us if autumn was October or if autumn was December, which was, I think, a question that's been paralleled across the country by LAs there. So you'll see more as it goes forward, but we're striving to think ethics and values. Will this make a difference to families, and listening to families so that we're doing something that people want and need in the places they need it. So that's my introduction, but I'm happy to take any questions and also sit
Thank
down.
you. Any questions? I think it's Dawn and then Kerry.
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Chair. Something very basic. It says that you need to identify at least one Best Start Family Hub site by January. Do you have an idea of where that will be? And just one little point, just to point out on your life activities chart, it says Golden Lane Leisure Centre. I'm assuming that should say community centre.
It should,
Right,
yes.
thank you.
And yes, we do have a site that we would like to, which is Artisan Street Library as a space, and we're looking at that. As with everything, it doesn't meet the needs of everything. Like, it's not necessarily going to be the space for a youth club, for example, but it will be. What we're hoping it will be is the one place, but then with satellite sites. So our families tell us different things, as we're all different. Our SEND families very much want one space, and other residents want things close to where they are. We're mindful of that. The Shore Trust on a Friday will go out to people because sometimes it can be difficult to walk to the other side of the city. So we're trying to make things across all parts of the city, but also practice getting around and including. We don't have the volume to do something different. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Rachel. I know you've all done a lot of work on this, so it's really appreciated. Just a couple of points. So as someone obviously having a baby with me, who has been a member of the Children's Centre, I haven't been contacted in terms of getting an update of the fact that obviously the Children's Centre is now no longer in the Aldgate School, and that the classes that you can attend for under fives are being dispersed across the city. So there's not sort of been any contact, and I know a few other people who have had the same. And I think I've mentioned it previously. I'm not sure if it was in this committee or it might have been in safeguarding, about the possibility of actually all families registered in the city just getting like an information pack posted to them, because I think WhatsApps obviously are good, but I think people get inundated with WhatsApps and emails, and I think a lot of the time people just, it goes, you know, over people's head, and you sort of see it and think, oh yeah, that's good, but then never go back to it. So I don't know if that's a possibility at all, because I'm just conscious, in particular where some of the classes, for instance, have moved to Smithville Nursery. I know that last week, for instance, they didn't have anyone attend, which is obviously a shame. So I don't know how many families actually have really been made aware that, you know, the services are ongoing, but they're now just in different places. Thank you.
Yeah, we can always do more. So there's physical signs. Everybody open to, say, for example, health visiting, or our services have been informed, as far as we're aware, maybe not. It's also gone via members through this kind of process, and it's gone through the newsletter. But if there are other people missing, then more than happy to share that with them. We've also had people standing in the estates handing out programs as well to try and do that, and the Shore Trust, every time people have gone there, they've been pointing them to the timetable as well. But absolutely, if there's anybody missing, more than happy to share.
Judith, and then David, and then Judith, David, and Nikat.
Thank you. Just to pick up that suggestion about posting out to people, we'll review that and see whether that's an affordable option. If it is, then we certainly will. Thank you.
Thank you,
David.
I think it really highlights a real ongoing problem, and that's communication to families accessing these services. Because, for example, a hard copy letter or piece of communication was sent to a number of providers about a parental childcare survey during the middle of the summer holidays, and nobody knew about it until after it had happened. So it went round through the Bush Telegraph on WhatsApp groups, I think, to parents across the city after the consultation had finished. And then I had to ask, so obviously that will have impacted the number of people that felt able to contribute. And then also, I think officers have been able to extend they basically said that they consider any responses they got after the end of the survey. But at the moment, we've not found a way. Those of us with kids under 5 in the city are not finding out about any of this stuff. And so there's a lot more we can do, because people like Kerry and I in this situation, parents are moaning to us about this very legitimately every week. How do we find out? How do you know that? Where were you told? Why hasn't that been distributed through this or that? And I think that's something that we together in a number of ways can work on. I think it may be there's a city belonging project that can help with that, which is due to come about in the autumn this year, I hope. But together, I think we can do a lot better there. But also, can I ask, please, that the Family Information Service needs to have so much more information included for it to be useful. That's the criticism that was levied at it before. And I'm afraid some of the disappointment that people had with that online presence have been carried through to this new, much more nicely presented package of information. But for example, if you click through to the information about play schemes and holiday clubs, there's a generic page which says they operate between 8 and 6 a.m. It doesn't tell you what they are, where they are, what your options are in the square mile. All of that information is omitted again. And so it's very difficult for parents to actually use these tools to access the information that you're asking them to. Can I also just raise one thing? The colour coding on the chart is not something that can be understood by people with colour blindness, because green, brown and red have all been used. So you can't access that information easily as to location, because it's been color coded in a way which those with color blindness can't see. So can I ask that there's an option for those activities are?
Thanks, David. I think these comments are exactly why I think this needed to come here for discussion, because otherwise, if it's just noting, we don't pick up a lot of this feedback. So it's really important. Nigat.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome this paper very much. I was just concerned, really. There is a point on point 13, page 8, kind of similar to my colleagues' comments about a link provided to direct families to the Best Start Family Hub web pages. Are you monitoring that to see if you're getting any click-throughs on that? My first point. Second point is that again, you've got a comment on point 19, page 9, about reviewing and the development of the online offer. So please, could you just clarify a little bit around that point as well? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I should notice that I'm also colourblind and I didn't do that form, so I'll go and spot that as well. Yes, ideas on more engagement. Yes, the Family Information Service needs more updating. Absolutely agree. It also needs simplifying. I think we try to use the links where often, but if we've got any other ways of communicating, we'll do that. And we'll keep going with refining it. We've done a lot of different ways of engagement, but we're always happy to learn more because we want to reach it. It's a really strong offer. And one of the things I want to do is make sure that wherever anybody is offering a service, for example, on the table attached, that everybody knows about all the other services. That's the whole premise of a Best Start Family Hub, is that you've got everybody knowing everything rather than having to go round and round. So we'll work on that communication there as well. Happy to.
Any other comments? Nigat, you want to come back?
Thank you. Did you want to respond to my question
about the link?
So are you monitoring?
Yes, we are. Yeah, we are.
What is your findings?
Yeah.
What were your findings? Thank you.
The increase, there's been a high increase in the uptake of going to the Family Information website already. But I can come back with actual figures, but we do monitor and collect data on who's using what from where and how, so we can do that as well. But if there's any suggestions more about who and how, absolutely happy to do that, because there's no point in providing a service unless everyone can go to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the comments and the feedback. It's very helpful indeed. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. So that is noted. So we turn to item 10, which is the Community and Children's Services non-housing revenue outturn forecast as at Q1. And this is for information starting on page 17 of the information pack.
Okay, members, the item 10 and item 11 are both papers just for information. So we haven't received any questions, so we'll take those as read. If we could move on to item 12, though, the risk register. Do you want to
Thank you. So those two are noted. So turning to item 12, which is the register. Again, this is for information on page 35, but the chair would like it to be brought into discussion.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, I think this is, it feels to me that to have a risk register tucked into an information pack where generally things don't get discussed is completely the wrong place. And as a matter of course, I prefer risk registers to come to the public discussion part of the meeting. Otherwise, I don't feel that we're scrutinising the DCCS work as thoroughly as we should be. So it is in the information pack as item 12, and so I'm hoping that people have looked at it and would like to take some questions on it if there are any. Philip.
Chair, this came up actually at the Markets Board this morning about our risk registers, just not only regarding the markets, but across the corporation. Interestingly, in this particular case, you don't have when the risk started, and we had some on the markets that go back to 2020. And I wonder if you're going to review this regularly in public. It would be quite useful for us to know when they first got on here. You won't solve all of them, which became very, very clear in the markets meeting. But certainly it's useful to know if they've been here for 1 year, 5 years. And my request would be that we add that column in, please.
Simon, did you want to comment on the paper in general and then that specific?
Specifically, that's a very helpful suggestion. Just more generally, I completely support, and I think it's absolutely right that the risk register should be a discussion item for good governance purposes and good risk management. We've been undertaking a process of review and improvement around our risk management in the department. So we have a new departmental protocol. We were subject to an internal audit, which made some recommendations for strengthening and improving our approach. Since the report that you have in your pack was authored, we've had a formal notification from internal audit that we're fully compliant with all of their recommendations, and we've evidenced that compliance, which is good news. But we are going further. So we're revising the risk register, and we will take on board that suggestion about the start date. We've had some training from the city's corporate insurer, Zurich, on risk, both on how we frame our risks, identify our risks, describe them, and describe the mitigations. So we're in the process of revising the risk register. So the one that you see before you is the current but old one. We've identified additional risks in housing. Our process and protocol, we have a new departmental protocol, means that the departmental leadership team sign off and agree on risks that are held at a departmental level, and that revised and renewed risk register should come for discussion in the next quarter for this committee.
Philip.
Sorry, the other thing I forgot to mention, and this isn't a hospital pass, Simon, there was also an officer name by each risk on the markets one, which again was quite helpful so that you could pick up who to go and talk to if you had a concern about it.
Yeah.
I think we'd take that suggestion. We'd certainly want to put at least the relevant departmental leader, whether it was myself or Peter in housing or any of my peers. So we'll take that on board.
Thank you. Mark, and then Anne.
Chair, thank you very much. Page 39, the list of those risks. As Blake Tower as both likely and with major impact if we keep it in our minds. I am aware that the Chair of Policy and officers and members have been acting to reduce this risk, and I'm also mindful this isn't the place necessarily or the moment to go deep into it, but could we just have a quick kind of position statement on where we are and what's going on? Thank you.
Judith.
Thank you. We have an improvement notice run by the corporation, not by DCCS, but run by the corporation in relation to some fire safety issues for Blake Tower. Blake Tower, for those who aren't aware, is a residential block on the Barbican estate that's currently managed by Redrow Barrett. We are meeting Redrow Barrett regularly. We're meeting them again this week. We meet with residents separately. Our aim is both to assist Redrow in achieving the aims of the improvement notice and to respond properly to the concerns that residents have, and to prepare ourselves for readiness for when we take back the Blake Tower into the Barbican Estate Office. So that work is in progress. It is slow paced because we're steered really by responsiveness of Redrow Barrett. We're bringing a report to the Barbican Residential Committee, and that's probably the right place for this discussion rather than here. Thank you.
Thank you. As a member, I would welcome some training on how to interpret these charts, what these numbers mean, because I see reds and I'm thinking, well, so what? What does that mean? At finance yesterday, the HRA was described as fragile. So, I'm not seeing the state of the HRA on this risk register. So it was raised as, quite not a great place to be in terms of the HRA. I mean, that's a national issue. So, how bad what is the scale of red? And so what? Is there something beyond red? What does amber mean? I'd really welcome some training on that, and also for the fragile state of the HRA to be somehow reflected here.
In terms of the HRA, certainly we're working with the housing management team to reflect the full range of risk in housing, and we think that currently our departmental risk register doesn't have that. In terms of the scoring training, I'm certainly happy to talk to member services, but perhaps in the minutes of the meeting we'll provide the link to the corporate risk policy, which was agreed by members, which sets out the weighting that's given to likelihood and impact, and it's a combination of those factors that provides a score, which means that your risk is then settled as being a red, amber, or green. It's not as complex as it sounds, but it's a way of giving some methodology behind how we say this is high risk or a red rated risk based on scores, rather than just a sort of subjective judgment of all officers.
Yeah, I suppose for me, it's the so what. So it's red. So what happens? That's what I
mean. We have a complex risk system in the city called IGGN. So wherever you have a risk, we have to put through the mitigations and set out what our actions are in terms of reducing that risk, or there are some risks that we have to manage and accept. The risk that rough sleeping will increase in the city is a risk to our budgets. That arises for issues that happen beyond our control. So our mitigations will be quite limited compared to, say, some of the risks within the HRA where we can take very concrete action. So we can provide that fuller risk register with the mitigating actions and the commentary that allows you to say, are we managing this? Is our desired outcome that the risk reduces, or accepting that it's a risk that we need to be aware of that we can't necessarily manage down?
I think that one of the issues for me is that the way in which it's presented is according to the traffic light rating, as opposed to grouping activities. So housing is in 2 or 3 different places in here according to where it is on the traffic light, as opposed to having a section called housing or a section called children. Now, I'm assuming that that's a corporate reporting arrangement and we don't have any control. But if we do, can we change it to groupings that would make more sense to us as a committee?
I'll take it away as something desirable. It is a product of our corporate risk management system, the way the reports are generated and structured. I don't use it directly, so I'll see if there's some ability to structure that thematically rather than, as I think it is at the moment, at level of risk.
Questions or comments on risk? Simon, can you help me? Is this a quarterly reporting on risk? And if so, can it always be in the public for discussion as opposed to in information pack?
Absolutely, to both things. It should come here quarterly. Specific risks that are considered high may also be reported at the relevant subcommittees. And I'm certain that Kate and I can ensure that it comes here for discussion and therefore is in the main pack rather than just
Yeah.
as an information item.
That's helpful. Thank you very much. Okay, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. So we now turn to item 13, which is the updates from subcommittees, allocated members and portfolio holders. I've been made aware of one member who submitted an update, which was circulated to members via email from Deputy John Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair. The report this time, I sent it out. There have been no major items that have been completed, but thanks to Greg Wade, who did a lot of work with me to update on the outstanding issues. And in the report, the updates are all in red, so it's easy to see that progress is being made. There was one major additional item, which I called snagging. About a month ago, in August during recess, I did a walkabout on the estate with residents, one resident in particular, looking at all of the jobs that had not been completed. Now, I think in the end, I supplied 42 photographs. So on Middlesex Street alone, we can spot 42 jobs which contractors have not completed. Typically, they are cabling that's been put in and the ducting hasn't been properly replaced. They are when changes have been made, such as signs being taken down and then the area not redecorated. Those are just two, but there are many other typical things where the contractor has simply done half a job and walked away. This is the real problem because the estate looks tatty. Then the next contractor comes on site, says, well, nobody here really cares. I'll just do a quick bodge job and I'm on my way. Nobody will know or care. And that's a great pity. So I took this up and I gave the report. I put the report through to the chair and to the director and deputy director, Peter. And I know they've taken some action on this. And I'm going to let them speak after this. I won't say what action has been taken. But I'm getting some positive reports back from the estate, so I thank them for that. But I'm more deeply concerned with that. As David said in Court of Common Council, ultimately we're responsible for the oversight of everything that's been happening. So the members, we're to blame. Well, we can't put it any other way. The people that I understand, or the department there, understand signs off on these jobs and agrees that they can be paid, is Property Services. And despite having been chair of Housing Sub for 3 years, I'm still not really sure how Property Services works. And I do know, again, that Peter is making some changes there to make improvements from what I found. So I'm going to make, if I might, Chairman, humbly make two suggestions. First one is that at the next Housing Subcommittee, there is a report brought to the Housing Subcommittee of what is being done to improve the performance of Property Services going forward, and explain to members of Housing Sub exactly how it operates and the interaction with the difference between repairs and redecoration, because I understand from the estate staff that sometimes they say, oh, this needs repairing, and it becomes, oh no, that's not a repair, that's a job that wasn't completed. And I detect from the estate staff on the estates, there is frustration amongst them as well. So we've got to sort that out. So that would be my first humble suggestion, that we take that to Housing Sub, which is a logical place for it to sit. Housing Sub can then take a look at it and then go forward and decide how it wants to carry out oversight of Property Services, whether it's a quarterly report, 6 monthly or whatever. But I would leave that to the subcommittee. My second recommendation is to my fellow members, my fellow allocated members. Can I suggest that you look at the photographs that I put on the website, that the town clerk put on the website, so you get some idea of what's going wrong. Go around your own estate and go around with residents, because they're the ones that really know the estate. Do your own little snagging report to get your estate up to speed as well. So that's where I am. I've said a lot. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, John. As always, you give us a very comprehensive report. And we have members on other estates like Golden Lane who are also regularly giving us very similar reports. I have to say, from the chair of this committee's perspective, I find it extremely disappointing that we have not been able to respond more effectively to some of the very long-standing repairs and maintenance. Sarah mentioned earlier the issue of short-term responsiveness and the need to get to grips with that, to start building trust with residents. In a way, it almost doesn't matter how many homes we refurbish to decent home standard and they look fantastic if other bits of the estate have not been properly repaired and maintained. So I'm going to let Judith or Peter respond in more fully, but I have to say I absolutely share the frustration and the disappointment around this.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, John. Just need to flag, I think Chairman's already mentioned it, that we've been through a similar exercise with members on Golden Lane Estate. So, and we're going through a programme of trying to batch jobs, outstanding jobs, so that they can be dealt with. But going back to your particular initiative, what we've done is that we have produced an action list which is being monitored by somebody on actually the resident services officer at Middlesex Street, because it has the benefit of him actually being there, and he's working with his colleagues to make sure that these jobs go through. If you look at the jobs, some of them are have been there for quite some time, responsibility of contracts that have happened. Some of them are down to contracts which are not yet complete, because, as you know, on Middlesex Street in particular, we've had a number of contracts which have gone on for various reasons and not actually closing them down. But that's diving into the detail. I think the suggestion about going to the housing management sub with something on what's happening with the property services team is a good one. I think it's been that particular team, just in summary, has been characterised by some transience in management, and we've recently recruited procured a contractor who started in April. I think that we are seeing improvements in the approach from that. We're also working on our IT system to give our staff better tools, but I think that's better all pulled together to give you an idea of how we're going forward. And the head of service, who's been with us for about 7 months now, has got a tracker of issues which cover everything from IT to people to culture to systems. And I think we can share that with you. And I hope that that would give you all some reassurance that these issues are on our agenda, very much so, and that we're working in different streams just to try and make sure that our teams have the tools to do their jobs more effectively, because they want to deliver a good service as well. And that also includes better coordination between colleagues who are doing more long-term jobs about how they accept handover. So it's not just the repairs team, it's about having better expectations of our major works team as well. So I think the idea of going to housing management sub is a good one, and we can pull it all together for that.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, I look forward to that. Thank you for agreeing to bring it to housing sub, and I look forward to that report. I think, particularly in view of the potential changes to housing governance, it's very important that we grip this now, so that when that working group sits in the new year, they have something substantive to look at. So thank you. And yeah.
Nick.
Chair, perhaps you could help us to understand if any penalties are being dished out to contractors who do not fulfil their works, or if they've taken too long to complete their works. Because surely we wouldn't want to be engaged with contractors who've got a really poor record, and we wouldn't want to give them new contracts if we know they haven't delivered beforehand. I mean, I know this comes under your governance and the actual change in how these things are being monitored, but our legacy of oversight should imply forward-thinking planning incorporates all of these things. And I'm really upset to hear that we are not withholding any monies from these contractors who seem to not deliver on these, projects. Thank you.
I'd just like to know who's signing these off. So if we have an external contractor and they leave these snagging issues, who do we have on site in the Middlesex Street estate to say, yeah, you can leave site, we're happy with the completion of the job? Whose responsibility is that?
That's so if I take that question, that's been a combination of people that we've employed externally, but also our internal staff. But I think it would be fair to say that our contract management hasn't been to the standard that we would expect it to be, and we are working on that. And part of working on that has been bringing in, we're not a large organisation, so I'm not talking about lots of staff, but bringing in people who've got some specialism in actually managing contracts and being able to share with staff how the tricks of the trade. And that has happened in the repairs team quite recently, on bringing somebody to look at compliance, which is the health and safety, and to look at the new contract that we brought on board with the steps that you would expect to be in a contract for us to be able to hold the contractor to account. So, for example, without wanting to deep dive, we can audit the jobs and the cost of the jobs, but we're going to do that in the new year because the contract's been going on for a while, and that would allow us to recall money if we need to. But doesn't mean we're waiting for that. It means that we're doing that throughout, and we've had an extra resource in since last autumn to help to support the team to do that more effectively. But also we're giving them the kit to do it more effectively and make it easier to do. But contract management hasn't been our A-star area, but we are taking steps to improve that. But part of it's about giving people the confidence and the tools.
Okay, we've got Anne and then Philip.
First of all, I'd like to thank Peter and her team for working extremely hard to put new systems into place, and that is really appreciated. But for the people, and I can only talk about Golden Lane, although I've visited York Way briefly, for the residents on the ground, they're not seeing the results, and I think that's an issue. And I think this is probably shadow of Tom, in that good housekeeping on any housing estate or complex is about having people on the ground. And I think one of the issues for the people we represent is that there doesn't appear to be anybody on the ground who's seeing what the residents see or what elected members see. So residents report things and then seem to wait an awful long time to have quite minor repairs addressed. And when those minor repairs accumulate, then the message, which I know is not your intended message, Peter or Liam, is that nobody cares about what happens here. And I think this is to do with empowering quite junior staff to make decisions and to report things. Obviously, we have staff on these estates every day, but they are not empowered to raise the issues, to report what we see. So whilst the big systems are in place around contracts, it's to do with the issues on the ground, which we'd like attention paid to if possible. Thank you.
Peter, yeah. Right. You may or may not be aware that I've made a request, which I'm working with colleagues in Chamberlain's on our staffing structure to bring some more staff in to do some more frontline eyes and ears staff. Because what's happening at the moment is that our estate staff, many of whom are very good, are operating in a schizophrenic way, because they are responsible for our first line of compliance, as well as looking at the estates from the estate services perspective. And that is not possible with the numbers that we've got. So we are working with Greg, Nott and Liam. We've devised a structure which will bring not massive resource, but some more resource in to allow people to do their jobs better, which will then give the empowerment that you're talking about. But a lot of that, but the reason we've been working on our Civica housing management system quite closely is that will make people's jobs easier as well. So we're looking at all of that, because our estate-based staff at the moment are operating in two different arenas, and something has to give. And at the moment, it's not as we would expect it to be, though it's not, as compared to others, it's not dreadful. But that's no excuse, obviously. But we're working on that. It's about giving people the tools, but having enough people as well on the ground and having the skills and the systems that they can operate so they can work more efficiently, because they all want to do that.
Thanks, Peter. Philip.
So this is probably, again, sheer ignorance, but in other parts of the corporation where we have a contractor who comes on site and hides bags of asbestos in the attic, that contractor then suddenly gets another job across the corporation. How much cross-pollination takes place between the City Surveyors Department and your teams? Because picking up on Nigat's point about compensation from the companies that let us down, I hope it is happening, but certainly in the case of certainly one of our schools, we had a significant issue with the contractor, not only with the asbestos, but also the staff that came on site were never cleared to be in an area with young children. And it worries me that sometimes we think in our departments or our committees and we don't share the information. So my request, rather long-winded, would be that I hope we are sharing with contractors about this.
Thank you. Just to confirm that we have strong relationships with city surveyors and will continue to do that in terms of our contract management and monitoring. Thank you.
So we're clearly going to have a much more detailed conversation about this in housing, in the next housing sub. So I was going to move on because we've still got a lot to do. Mark?
Helen, could I just give you a quick update on homelessness and rough sleeping? Would that be
Yeah, sure.
marvellous? Our next meeting of the subcommittee is the 1st of October, I believe. Kate might correct me. If any members of this grand committee would like to attend, we'll be more than delighted to see them. As we've heard already, numbers in the city are up, as they are across a lot of London. And there are complexities because the people who are homeless are in many cases moving between authorities at different times and require support across agencies. So it's not going to be a situation which is necessarily solvable, either for them or some of the things that sometimes spin out. Anecdotally and in terms of data, we are seeing a rise in antisocial behaviour, and that is something that our subcommittee's on, as well as the kind of the root of that. But you know, I'm only a couple of meetings in. I think I've been very encouraged by the service provision that we have. The officers in place are on top of their agendas and are delivering at a high standard. Two other things just to flag up very briefly. One of the members of the subcommittee very kindly suggested that this committee should remind the Chair of Finance that he stated on the floor of Common Council that funds could or should be found to help with homelessness as we sought funding elsewhere. And also just to let members of this committee know that the Chair of Policy very kindly suggested that some funds will be found to host an event in Guildhall at some point early in the new year to gather public and private actors on homelessness, to convene a community and spark some connections. So, really pleased with what I've seen so far. And just remind you, 1st of October, any member of this committee more than welcome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And in fact, I should probably have said that I don't think we've had a response yet to the resolution that went to a finance committee, but Judith is. Oh, sorry, have we got an update?
Kate, I think you sent an update through. Just give me one.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Anybody else got a sorry? Okay, I haven't seen this yet. Yeah, Kate has got a response. I'm sorry, I haven't seen it yet, so we'll just read it out.
So the resolution from this committee went to Finance Committee back in July. I'm just going to read out the resolution that was passed, which was that the committee, i.e. Finance Committee in this case, supported the sentiment in the resolution and issued its fulsome support for the corporation's efforts in tackling homelessness. Nevertheless, members were minded not to support ring fencing / hypothecation at this stage and suggested that the chairman meet with the chairman of Community and Children's Services Committee on these matters and report back.
Chairman, might I suggest, with all due respect to finance, that's not entirely an adequate response.
It's not, given the words that were spoken in court, but I think we remind the chairman of finance that perhaps find the section from the court to remind him what he did say, and that we look forward to a response to that.
Indeed, it amounts to sympathy rather than resourcing. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all very much. I'm not seeing anybody else with a hand up wanting to make a report. So we're now going to move on to questions on matters relating to the work of the committee. We have had two. The first one was from Anne. Shall I read it, Anne? Or
yes, please. This was raised at finance yesterday.
Yeah, it's what's the current impact of the new building safety regulations on HRA projects?
Yeah, this was raised at finance yesterday as having a significant impact nationally on building projects. And I wonder what the impact is for our projects if you have a scale of the delay, and maybe explain why the delays are happening, please.
I've got a very high level response because I asked members of the team to give me a response for today. But what I would like to, I'll just do a very general response and provide some more detail in a note. So basically the main areas have been around, we now have to appoint more specialist architects and other project team members who have to have qualifications in safety, building safety areas, which not necessarily everybody has, which obviously adds to the expense of that. It was that we know that some people are avoiding tendering for work which includes higher risk buildings because of the added complexities to that. And some buildings and projects, when they come to an end, if they are higher risk buildings, have to be registered with the building safety regulator, which adds to the time as well. So it's more about added complexity, deeper qualifications in quite a small pool of available resource, people becoming more and more resistant or less likely to go for jobs, including higher risk buildings, and the time that's involved with the whole building safety regulator regime about registering buildings at various stages of the process. But we can pull something together. We've got examples from Major Works and the new build team.
Thank you, that'd be very helpful.
Okay, thanks. Town clerk's reminding me that the second question, I think, is in non-public. Yeah.
Thank you. Committees, we turn to item 15, which is public any other business. Chairman, I believe you want to raise Black Raven Court.
Yes, I just thought it would be helpful to have a couple of words on Black Raven Court. I mean, this did come up at the city question time, and it still keeps coming up. We've had another inquiry from the press about what's happening with Black Raven Court. It is again, I think, another extremely frustrating issue when we are still not in a position to be able to occupy Black Raven Court for reasons that people will know. Could perhaps say more in non-public if that's helpful, but at the moment we're still not able to. So it's been deferred by probably till November, I think, because we're still waiting for building control sign off from Islington Borough, and then it has to be submitted for housing regulator sign off. So it's still a matter of weeks. I'm really sorry. All I can say is that representations have been made at the highest possible level, almost on a daily basis, but we're still not able to get the response that we need to be able to go to that final step. Said it? Yeah. Okay. So next item, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chairman. So the next item is the exclusion of the public. So I'm going to ask, are members content to exclude the public for remaining items of business at this juncture? Thank you. I just have a short pause whilst we stop the recording.